Hi guys, how are you doing? This is Madhvi from TaroticallySpeaking.com and eLearnTarot.com, and today we are going to dive into the very airy realm of Aquarius, and we're going to look at the three decans of Aquarius, and we're going to, of course, we're going to understand all this astrology stuff through the lens of the tarot card images. So buckle up. It's a wild ride. Okay, so yes, before we kind of dive into it, a very quick sort of, as the admin stuff needs to happen, right? So all the links to all the downloadable things are in the description, and please read the blog post, because if you're interested in journaling prompts, or if you're interested in sort of reading all this material, because when I record it, it's like just I just record it, and then I take all of this and I transcribe it and I make it nice and make it a nice blog post. So if you want to read it that way, well, go read the blog post. So the link will also be there in the description. For those of you who like to hear things at a brisk pace, please adjust the playback speed and you can enjoy the video better. And of course, please hit the like button, because it I don't know, it makes me feel better. It really makes me feel better. Put a comment in the comment box and let me know what you thought of the video, because I always want to hear, because feedback is good. Any kind of feedback is good. This point I'm like, did you like it? Let me know, okay? And if you like, because I keep doing all of this, please subscribe to my newsletter. Again, all of these links are in the video description. Please do that. Please. I really appreciate all of you guys who do that. And definitely, like, hit the like button, because it really makes my day. All right, let's dive in. Ooh, Aquarius calls. So, Aquarius. It is an air sign, first and foremost, right? And although Aquarius is called the water bearer, it is the water bearer. It's not water, anything. It is a bearer of water, which is different. So, which is why it's an air sign, not a water sign. And it is ruled by Saturn, but when the modern planets, as they call them, were discovered, Uranus also became a sort of a ruler of Aquarius, which is cool. Uranus is your Fool card. Isn't that fun? And Saturn is the World card. Now, Aquarius, if you see the glyph, it looks like, you have these waves. Again, interesting because it's an air sign. But these waves talk about, or they are kind of like the symbol of the constant movement that disappears into infinity. Isn't that nice? So, what is Aquarius all about, really? Right? The keyword from the star code Astro Oracle here is collaborate, which is pretty interesting. But Aquarius is considered to be the sign which is all about, a very sort of the sign of the masses, if you will, right? It's about uh, a very humanistic approach towards everything. It's the sign of philosophers, reformers. Being an air sign, it is all about very, rational approaches. These are people who are all about, abstract concepts. These are people who are very altruistic, utopian, and being very air signy. They can be very stoic as well, like they don't necessarily react to everything. They are seekers of knowledge. They love originality, and ultimately, Aquarius loves to topple old values and replace them with new values. It clears all class distinctions, right? And it's talking about equality among masses. It also has all about, the energy is about individual freedom and big picture perspectives. So it's a sign which talks about a very very clear, rational picture, really, and which respects individual freedom, which creates a very equal playing field for everybody, right? Imagination, invention, independence, uh, being free from inhibitions and limitations. These are very strong features of Aquarius people. Aquarian people also use uh, unusual paths or new methods. They are very clever, conscientious. They endure. They are objective, very rational. These are very air energy aspects, right? The rationality, the objectivity. They can appear aloof, but they're also quite witty, very charming because of that wit. But they're also very non-committal, right? They are fair-minded, right? But they can be very reserved. They can be very emotionally detached. And you'll see a lot of Aquarians show up in fields like marketing, communication, advertising, public relations, technology, inventions, and even astrology and alternative medicine. Okay. Uh, on the flip side, Aquarians can seem lunatic, lonely, eccentric, impersonal, distant, contrary, very controlled, and they have great difficulty being subordinate. Now, all of this is to say that Aquarius has a very sort of a higher level perspective of everything. Now, when we're looking at the imagery, also, we're talking water bearer. So, where does this come from? Where does this whole water bearer symbolism come from? To that, we would look at Greek mythology, where we have our Zeus, the king of gods, from Greek mythology, and he kind of looked, he liked this prince called Ganymede, who was a young, I think the youngest son of the king, and he was a young man, very good looking, and so Zeus takes the form of an eagle and abducts him to Olympus, and he serves as the god's cupbearer. So, when they have divine banquets, this fellow is serving them nectar and ambrosia. Now, this is a, a very PG-13 version of what was going on. Now, Zeus had this thing, right? He has, I believe, abducted a bunch of people and done all these things. Zeus was quite famous for that. But here, those were maidens, right? Now, here, Zeus is abducting a young man. Guess what was going on, right? A lot of early accounts focus on his beauty, on his role, but then there is a bunch of accounts which talk about this abduction of Ganymede as a because as a symbol of homosexual desire, and the happily ever after story of a mortal elevated to divine status, because he's young, he's beautiful, and they want to sort of preserve that, so they make him immortal. And and then he created the constellation Aquarius in his honor, and that's where the cupbearer or water bearer sort of title comes from. It's Ganymede, the beautiful, beautiful Ganymede, who was loved by the gods for his beauty. Just saying. Whether Ganymede wanted it or not, we don't know, or at least this what I read up, I didn't find any information about it. So there you have it. That's what it is. So again, Aquarius, the water bearer. Hmm? Very interesting. And it kind of is interesting because the later religions have this whole perspective that, oh, this is good, this is bad, and all of that. But if you start looking at the religions that sort of predated We find that, you know, homosexuality, for instance, was not seen as something out of the ordinary. It was just what it was. So, I mean, just putting that out there. Anyhow, so there's Aquarius, okay? And in our tarot, the Aquarius sign is associated with the card called the star. And again, interesting because Aquarius is the water bearer, and there's no specific star, but here we have a star. And what we see the constellation here in the two star cards of the Rider-Waite-Smith and the Tarot de Marseille, we have the what looks like the Dipper, the Ursa Minor or Ursa Major, both those Dipper stars. And the star, I guess, then they're talking about is the North Star, which is the guiding star, right? So back in the day when they were when sailors or people on ships used to be traveling uh, at night, when one would feel lost, you would look at the stars and there was the North Star, and based on that you could sort of configure which direction you're going. So that's why that would be the whole energy of it, calling the star, because it's the guiding star. It guides you. And then if you look at the whole energy of Aquarius, where you have all these humanistic principles, altruistic ideals of the world, then yeah, those could be the guiding star leading you to create a perfect world, or as you know, the very utopian world you're looking to create, right? So maybe that makes sense that way. Okay. Uh, Now, when we look at the imagery, all of these images pretty much show a woman with long hair that's sort of, you know, left open, and she is pouring a liquid out of two jugs that she's holding, one in each hand. And she's pretty much almost all, yeah, she's pretty much naked. Nudity, again, a symbolism of I've got nothing to hide, you know, so that. And in the, yeah, in pretty much all of these images, again, you see she's got one knee on the ground, and she's pouring, right? So what else is there? There's that similarity. We do see the ibis bird here, again, a messenger of thought. There's butterflies here from the in the thought, and in the telos we see butterflies and stars. And see, all of these stars are also eight-pointed stars. That's interesting. And the star in the Tarot de Marseille, it kind of looks like the compass rose, right? Like if you've seen old maps or sometimes even the new modern maps, the north is shown in a very stylized way. This is called the compass rose. So you know, again, directions. And so that's the connection with the North Star. These seven small stars, they are often linked with the Pleiades group, the seven nymph sisters who attracted Orion the hunter. And to save them, Zeus turns them into doves. They fly upwards and reach the heavens and become stars. That's the story. Now, um, the sun, moon, star triad is kind of a very common symbol in Renaissance alchemy, where sun is the masculine principle, moon is the feminine principle, and star is the mystical union between them. Okay, so that's a very interesting symbolism thing there. And okay. So yeah, so they have these two jugs, they're pouring water out of it, right? So when I used to study the imagery from the Rider-Waite, I used to be like, okay, this water is the symbol of the unconscious. She is pouring her experiences back in them. And over here, when she pours water on land, they get divided into five streams that connect with the five senses. So we have her letting go of her attachment to those senses. That's the very Aquarian theme. But when you look at the Marseille tarot image, we have her pouring water, you know, on herself a little bit also, which is again, it could be like, I'm cleansing myself kind of a thing. Uh, she's pouring water at the over the lower part of her body. So again, cleansing or purifying oneself from feelings of sin and guilt linked to body and sexuality, right? And in the thought, let's see, I have my notes, so I'm just consulting my notes. So if you'll be wondering why, what's going on, I'm looking at my notes. So here we have this lady is representing in the thought, she represents Nut, the ruler of stars, the Egyptian goddess Nut who rules the stars. The long hair is a symbol of life force and inspiration and the connection of cosmos and soul. Now she has a gold and a silver cup, right? So again, gold being representing sun, who is the mind, and moon as the soul, as the sources of this heavenly water. This water, again, cleansing, fertility, life, energy. There's the heavenly globe with the seven pointed star. This represents Venus. Interesting, the power of love. Again, Venus is not the ruler of Aquarius. So that's interesting to note. Uh, we also have a big star here with this spiral sort of haze, right? The book that comes with the thought deck talks of this as the Star of Babylon, the source of spiritual light, divine love. And the smaller blue star is earthly love. I guess this one is a bunch of stars, right? There's also these crystals which represent protection and healing power. We have roses a little bit here, which are love and fertility, right? Rose is also the symbol of Venus. And then butterflies, which are a symbol of renewal. And we see a lot of that similar symbolism here as well in the telos imagery. We have the goddess with the golden and silver jugs pouring water. And we have the butterflies, the roses, the star with the seven, spiral haze, right? Yeah. So anyhow, so what is the meaning of this imagery and how does it connect with the meaning of Aquarius, right? Here again, she's the guiding star. She is letting go of attachments. She is letting go of, everything really. There's nothing to hide. So we are looking at hope, we are looking at positivity, we are looking at new beginnings in this imagery. We're looking at detachment of, we are looking at letting go. We're looking at insight and intuition. We are looking at inspiration. And these do resonate with Aquarian, energies a lot. We are looking at, because Aquarius, again, with that rationality, with that objectivity, with the very humanistic and sort of philosophical perspective, is looking at the bigger picture. And star here, as we saw, is the whole symbolism where it's the union of the mind and the soul of the sun and the moon energies. It's a mystical space where everything is idealistic, right? Where again we feel hope, we feel positive, we feel that, yeah, there is my guiding star, and if I follow that, if I go down this path, I will be able to accomplish or reach that goal that I want, which is the perfect world that I want to create, right? And so this is the space, this is the clarity of the star, which I think does have, it does have a lot about the Aquarian energy that we're talking about. Okay. So then, now we're looking at the three decans of Aquarius. And in the first decan with Venus in Aquarius is the Five of Swords. Okay. So, what is this decan all about? The Picatrix description says a beheaded man holding a peacock. There's another description which says a man with bowed head and a bag in his hand. So we see both these images here in the Picatrix Decans deck. We have the beheaded man and the peacock in the hand, and in the Telos tarot we see the man with the bowed head holding a bag. And so, essentially, this decan is about hard and tiring work, poverty, need, few means of subsistence, or a lack of it. Okay, so let's sort of get into it, because the book that came with the Telos tarot deck does talk a little bit about it. So it's very insightful, especially to understand the decan energy, on the face of it, right? So the beheaded head or the bowed head is talking about this, the combination of Mars, which is about, the number 5 is connected with Mars. It's connected with the Tree of Life, Sephiroth of Gebra. Now, what is 5 all about? 5, the energy of 5 is about changes and uncomfortable changes. So that is the whole vibe of the beheaded head or the bowed head. And we're looking at swords as well. So, there's this whole energy here. But so and the peacock. The peacock is a reference to Venus, actually, because Venus is about beauty, right? You see the Venus reference in the rose petals here of the Five of Swords from the Telos deck. But we'll look at the Telos imagery when we get to the cards themselves, okay? Because I don't want to rush ahead. So purely here, the peacock is the reference to Venus, and the beheaded head or bowed head is the reference to the 5 or Gebura energy that is connected with this card. So, interesting, isn't it? So let's go ahead and look at the, like a very quickly look at the energy of Venus. Venus is about love, art, aesthetics, expression, femininity, beauty, harmony, affection, attraction, values, self-worth, creativity, luxury, money, pleasure, abundance, friendship, and also manipulation and vanity and superficiality, right? Venus is an earthy planet, and it rules Taurus and Libra. In our tarot, Venus is connected with the Empress card, who's all about this very motherly, nourishing energy. She's about abundance and growth and giving birth and creating sort of heritage, and she's about fertility. But she's also about growth and sensuality and feminine sexuality and softness and harmony, right? And art and pleasure and this whole feminine goddess energy. Okay. So now when we have that energy in the very, very, very sort of airy Aquarian energy, what happens? In the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, the card that they have for this one is called detachment. Right? So here Venus is associated with the keyword love, and Aquarius is associated with principles and humanity. And so when this energy combines, we see this very interesting image here. We have this head, right? And we have all these markings. So there is a study, there's a system where they kind of look at the different parts of your head, and they see the bumps on your head, and they decide certain aspects, right? Where is this bump? How the shape of the head is, and so on. It's called phrenology, I believe. And so what we see here is this is a map. This is the phrenological map showing areas of intellect. And essentially, this is a person who is immersed in thought, and he's unaware of this idyllic scene that is behind him. So, again, rightly so, it's called detachment. So, what happens is a person who has this Venusian energy in Aquarius can be friendly with everyone, but again, not too friendly. right? Aquarius makes it to, keep the distance kind of thing. They may not be very stable as partners. As a relationship, the kind of relationship that Venus in Aquarius kind of requires is something that is a situation that gives them complete freedom, but again, it's not too traditional. They need a lot of intellectual stimulation, Aquarius, obviously. They aren't all about the jealousy and the over possessiveness. They absolutely don't like it. They need freedom, social freedom, and just intellectual freedom. They can be a little sexually eccentric and promiscuous. Now, it is likely that a person with Venus in Aquarius will marry someone who has been a good friend for a long time. And they often, you might see someone who, often they have friends who become lovers and lovers who become friends. So there's that transition that keeps happening. They are all about unusual things. They love innovative art. They like to be around creative and artistic people. They flourish in groups where, that where they're talking about these high, ideals or philosophy. And they have a very detached approach towards relationships. You might see some very unusual relationships that have, where people have this placement, Venus in Aquarius, right? So, yeah, you can see that. Like, they want the company that Venus will give, they want the connections that Venus can provide, they want the warmth, I suppose, that Venus can provide, but in the whole very, very airy and perhaps even cold and very rational, objective environment of Aquarius. Well, it gets very, intellectualized, and that's how it shows up then, I guess. Makes sense? So now let's also look very quickly at the energy of the number 5. As we've seen before, 5 is about challenges and discord and strife. It can be a struggle kind of an energy, but 5 also, because of that, creates the energy of interaction, communication, and learning and the senses. So it's all of that. So now, when we combine all of this in the imagery of the Five of Swords, we get some very interesting imagery. And it's interesting how this Five of Swords, which is Venus in Aquarius, shows up in all of these decks in different ways, but then it kind of talks about some, there's a bunch of overlaps. So let's look at it one by one. We'll come back to the right away to the absolute end, okay? Because it's wild. Okay, let's start with the Marseille Tarot. Here we have the 4 swords that form this closed circle, if you will, because they're curved. And then the 5th sword that pops up and cuts right through it, to the top parts, anyways, it goes out, right? There are these little flowers here, buds, I guess. So it's like, they're budding. What happens is, this talks about the 4 swords again, is like, swords being thoughts and ideas, and 4 being the number of stability. But then the 5th one comes and sort of pierces right through it. And that talks about breaking through these existing sort of spaces, the confined spaces here of that's created by 4. 4 is stable, and 5 wants to break that. And sometimes the same old can feel same old same old. So the 5 needs to push through this, right? Look at a different, because we are looking at thoughts that have become very comfortable in the 4. And so, to break past that and push forward. They go beyond the limitations. They want to see, they want to push through that. And despite it being uncomfortable, because in the space of the 4, the thoughts have a very comfort zoney vibe, but the 5 is like, nope, not having it. It's uncomfortable, but we got to push past it. And that's the whole energy of the 5 of Swords here, right? Now we look at the thoughts. Here we have 5 swords, arranged in a sort of a pentagram-like shape, with all their pointy ends pointing at each other. And then this bottom one, which is the most broken sword, it's also there right at the bottom there. And this is kind of like a reverse pentagram. We also see these little rose petals sort of arranged there, in that shape. So those rose petals are again a link with Venus, because roses are linked with Venus. And these bent and broken blades are talking about weakening, right? Swords are thoughts, ideas which have now bent and broken, because again, clashing with the number 5, the change has sort of broken those thoughts. And in Aquarius, it's kind of happening, right? The keyword too is defeat, right? So all of your ideas, thoughts, perspectives are breaking. And well, that's a defeat ultimately. And there is still that energy of Venus, which is saying, hey, here are some rose petals to make you feel nice, I guess. Right? And we have, the light in the background, which talks about clarity that comes from failure. So we have all of this. What happens when all of your ideals, all of your thoughts, all of your perspectives, all of your um, words, right? Everything that the air energy represents, when all of it breaks apart, when all of it goes through a chaotic strife situation, you do see a defeat, you do see a failure. There is betrayal, there's slander, dirty tricks being played. We have revenge, humiliation, spitefulness, suffering, strife, right? And avoiding conflicts leads to more strife. So that is an important one, I think, to know that this is an unavoidable situation where maybe you will have to accept that your ideas, your perspectives, like, over here also, what you thought was the comfortable spot isn't necessarily that. You need to see beyond that, go beyond that. And you may not like what you see. You may realize that, well, you were quite mistaken. It feels like a defeat because you have been in that comfort zone feeling very nice that, hey, I know everything. But no, 5 of Swords is here to say you don't know anything at all. And your perspectives, your thoughts aren't, well, they're wrong. you know and I guess Venus is there to give you some comfort, but Aquarius is cold and harsh, man, right? And then you come to this image of the telos, which is, I think, the most powerful image out of all this bunch. Because here we have, the energy of Venus, who likes harmony, but then it is also surrounded by challenge and discord of the number 5, which is influenced by Mars, and Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn. So this bowed head again is the admission of defeat. He's holding the bag, and you can see he's got all the 5 swords in here, right? And so this is again that mutilated or bowed head from the Deccan. Then we have all these, the rose petals on the ground, which is again a little, wave and nod to Venus there. He's wearing the red cloak, which is again, the red is the Mars and Gebura color. And we see the raven of Saturn, and he's kind of breaking this egg. The egg again, a connection to Venus. And so, yeah. And again, because it shows up in this particular time, right? This the dates that this Decan is coming in. It's pretty cold. And it's interesting that I'm talking about this, and we are right now in the middle of this really horrible cold weather. Right. I'm as I'm recording it, I'm wearing gloves and socks, and I have this sweatshirt and sock and everything. I'm just bundled up, but I'm recording. So yeah, this is, super cold. So see, these are the jagged clouds, which are raining really cold water. You can even see this snow patchy on, patches of snow on the ground here. The ground is frozen. Okay. So Aquarius, being very idealistic, very individualistic, very aloof, right? And brilliant. But then with Venus there, is also unable to process the emotions, the feelings, the love that Venus brings. And that again is also a defeat, if you will, right? So now with that, no, the wisdom that we gain from all of this symbolism, now when we look at the symbolism of the Rider-Waite, well, you do see the jagged clouds of, the cold, harsh Aquarius weather. We do see these two guys walking away. Well, they are defeated, yes, but they could also represent Venus, the Venusian energy, with that wants harmony, that wants peace, and perhaps for that sake, they are like, fine, you know what? We won't fight you. We give up. Let's compromise. But this is a compromise where you are also surrendering. Okay, it's just surrender is disguised as a compromise, which is very Aquarius. Again, you are, it's like narrative building really, but it is it's a surrender, it's a defeat that is being rewritten as a compromise. And then we have this guy, very Mars, very very fire. He's like, yeah, right? Now, look at him. He's standing there in that cold wind. He doesn't care. It's interesting because he can survive that cold weather, right? It's not that simple. Like if in this kind of temperature you go outside and you breathe, you feel it all the way in your bones. It's horrid. So this is again all the conflict, all the arguments. It's about rumors and slander, right? It's about walking away from conflict, right? It's about sort of rewriting, or the whole compromise and surrender is a compromise kind of a thing, right? Again, avoiding conflicts leads to more strife. And here you have, again, you have the conquest that uh, ultimately you're winning because the other side is so weak, or you're winning because the other side is a peace loving kind of a situation. So there's all of that going on, right? Or sometimes you have unconventional solutions. So you see all of this, it's wild, right? Five of Swords, Venus in Aquarius. Again, you may think Venus again being all about love and sitting in Aquarius. How does this card show up? You would want to see a more loving, a more nice image. I guess the Marseille Tarot imagery is the nicest in this lot, but in Aquarius, Venus is gonna surrender. She's gonna have to accept her defeat. And she's gonna rewrite that as a compromise. That's Five of Swords, Venus in Aquarius. There you go. Okay, so now the next decan is the Six of Swords, which is Mercury in Aquarius. Now, this is Mercury is again very air, and so is Aquarius, so at least the elements are compatible. Here, Picatrix describes this as a tenacious man who looks like a powerful king, right? There is another description which says a man arrayed like a king, looking with pride and conceit on all around him. Right? The description, the energy of this decan is about beauty, nobility, goodness, complete form, complete religion, and manhood. Okay? We see this energy, Mercury again and Aquarius together can be very, again, elements are compatible. So there is that. These two snakes could be a reference to the caduceus, I suppose. Hmm? And we have, the proud king. We see this here as well in the telos, and we'll get into the whole imagery when we look at the cards. And we have the king here, sort of looking, Mercury giving him that very Mercurian intellect, and Aquarius, of course, is all about the intellect. So we have all of that. Oh, this is a very, of course, I can get that whole sort of conceit, right? All that I know everything kind of vibe. Okay, so we do see this is the energy of the Decan. So here we have Mercury, right? An airy planet that rules Gemini and Virgo. Mercury is about the mind, is about intellectual stimulation, mental activity, reason, expression of thoughts and ideas, communication, speech, writing, learning, skills, curiosity, interests, travel, commerce, business, versatility, adaptability, change, right? And then on the flip side, Mercury is about uh, being a trickster, a psychopomp. He can be fickle, superficial, shallow, prejudiced, dishonest, right? Mistakes and due to scattered thinking, rushing, hurrying, all of that, right? Mercury is about communication, right? All of it. So in the tarot, Mercury is connected with the Magician card. And Magician, again, he is all about, making things happen almost as if by magic. He's about, here we have in the Rider-Waite, the Magician sort of channels his creativity as above. So below, he makes it happen. In the Rider-Waite, we see the sleight of hand quality of Mercury and of the Magician who, you know, uses trickery to get what he wants. In the Thoth, we have the Magus who is sort of able to go from, because Mercury has the ability to go from all, travel through all the realms, because as the messenger, he has to have that ability. So we see him do that. And here in the telos as well, we see how, Mercury is using his wits and his abilities to create illusions and ultimately master uh, the creative energies to, do what he has to do. He's a smart guy, right? And we see the here in the Thoth and in the telos, we have the ape and the ibis. Both are messengers of thought. Okay, the ibis is the symbol of concentration, because standing there he's meditating, and the ape is the trickster and the shadow energy. So we have that. Hmm? Mercury in the magician. So again, magician being all about taking charge, making things happen, manipulating things. Therefore, he is all about creativity and it can be communicating, writing, marketing, selling stuff, right? Yeah, trickery, smart guy. So now when you have this Mercury energy in Aquarius, let's see, in the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, this card is called Originality. We see this image where we have the star and the bird in flight that indicate hope and higher inspiration. And then this very complicated looking machine which shows the complex reality that can evolve from the first transient flight of imagination. Nice. So the keyword for Mercury is change, and for Aquarius, it's principles and humanity. So when we get this energy to combine, We see someone who is open to new experiences and perspectives, right? Someone who has a revolutionary mind, the ability to be unbiased, truthful, and objective. They are not traditional, obviously, very Aquarian, and they don't have time for those kind of traditional, socially acceptable ideas, especially when they conflict with facts of first-hand experience. So for them, experience triumphs everything, right? They have the ability to turn ideas on their head, to see situations from a new angle. They get flashes of inspiration, all that air energy, of course. They are original, right? They see ideas in broad terms. They are very interested in innovative new technologies, scientific investigation. They have interest in unorthodox disciplines. They take a lateral view, find a new approach, and these are ideas that require big, drastic changes. And this placement can also talk about unusual results from research, shock announcements, invention, innovation. People with this placement can be both great teachers and great students because they're all about, no, they require good mental stimulation, right? They, of course, Aquarian energy makes them very makes them a humanitarian, and they have this big urge to seek a better life for those who are less fortunate than them. On the flip side, I suppose you can see eccentricity taken to the extreme and outlandish ideas that have no basis for communication. Well, now this I like this placement, Mercury in Aquarius, because again, very Mercury, very Aquarius. They somehow they just gel so well, I feel, right? And then when we add in the energy of the number 6, it's all about harmony, it's about connection, it's about community, it's about stability, it's about service, it's about responsibility, right? Intellectual creativity, imagination, fantasy, abstract thinking. They again, this number energy is also very aligned with the energy of Mercury and the energy of Aquarius. So when we look at this beautiful imagery of the Six of Swords, I like it. Again, same as with the 5, I'll come back to the Rider-Waite imagery at the end here. Let's start with the Tarot de Marseille. We again, similar to the 4, now in the 6, we again see 3 swords, like a group of 3 swords, 2 groups, arranged about each other, and they create like an enclosure, right? And you have these 4 sort of buds at 4 corners, and in the middle we have a branch with a flower, right? And this branch has adapted to that space that is available. It's keeping like a nice distance from the sort of the handles or the sides of these swords, but it's like, okay, I like this space, I'm happy here, and it's sort of grown and adapted to it, right? 6 is the number of harmony, and when we're looking at swords, we're looking at thoughts. So here we see thoughts that have harmoniously sort of adapted and created that space. Even with the limitations that are present, they find that they can grow and develop and blossom to a certain extent. So this is about balance and harmony of thoughts, and still within that limited space or whatever that limitation is, they will be able to create, they will be able to make the best of the situation that is there. So there's an energy of compromise on some level too, but they will make the best. They will use that space or the availability of that harmonizing thought process to the best ability. Let's come to the thought, right? This is a very interesting image. The keyword here is science, which is interesting. Here we have 6 swords, again pointed. The pointy ends are looking at each other. They are arranged sort of equidistant from each other. They form a, I guess, a hexagram, if you will. And right at the center, we have a yellow cross. This is the cross, the rosy cross, I believe. And so this is, again, linked to the Hermetic order of Golden Dawn. We have, wait, let me look at the notes I made. So tulips meet at the center of a yellow rose cross. So there's tulips there. It's very tiny. So this means inner striving directed at unity and holistic understanding. Okay. There's a circle in the center, which talks of eternal truth, right? And this is inscribed in a square, okay, which is square is about reality. So this is the eternal truth which is hidden in within reality, okay. And we have all these wind wheel. So these wind wheel like structures, they talk of networked thinking or mental flexibility. So here again we talk about objectivity, intelligence, insight, and perception. We are talking about balanced relationships. We are talking about innovative ideas. We're talking about networking. We are talking about scientific professions. Why scientific? Because we have to be very logical, right? Thoughts have to harmonize. Logic needs to make sense. And in that energy of 6, it has to create something good. So we are looking at that whole energy where, we have something invented or created, but again, following scientific principles. Okay. So we're looking at the joy of experiments, we're looking at research, we're looking at exploring the unknown. So again, science. Remember that. I used to always wonder why this one's called science, but when you look at the imagery, it's like, oh, okay, makes sense. Mercury wants you to, be creative and think, and Aquarius, of course, wants to have it on a higher, big picture way, and so obviously you're going to invent something, and for that you need to be scientific, or in that manner you got to think that way, right? Let's look at the Six of Swords here in the telos, right? So you have here again this man dressed like a king. He's wearing, his dress. It's got all these stars and everything here. We have stars in the sky as well. So we are looking at this whole Aquarian energy. It's about stars and constellations, right? It's this big picture. It's again star in the star card. It's about, the goddess of the night, right? Uh, he is, we've got these 6 swords here. We've got this, if you look on the armrest, we have these barges, and this is important. We'll come to that. In front of him is an astrolabe. What is an astrolabe? Here, this is like a this is this you see very closely, this is the earth and this is the equator and the latitudes and longitudes, and then this device you can move it around. So we are looking at celestial navigation. We are looking at the whole, the it's tilted about the axis. It's all of that. So this is a very scientific understanding of, the workings of the world, if you will, right? And then navigating, obviously, where to go, how you're going, all of it. Now we also see the ape and the ibis here, yeah, from Thoth. uh Wait a second, I'm just looking at my notes. So the thing is, he is actually seated on a boat, and because you see the water behind him, right? He is seated on one end of the boat. What's happening here, and you see this solar disk here behind him. The thing is, if you see the Kabbalah tree of life, the 6th point or the 6th Sephirot is called Tiferet. And this one's also associated with the swords. It's also associated with the number 6, which is why 6 of Swords is said to be Tiferet of Tiferet. You get it? So, and that Sephiroth is associated with the planet Sun, hence that solar disk here in the background. Okay. And Egyptian mythology and most mythologies, actually, honestly, have this whole, you have the sun god. Okay, no, wait, hang on. Sorry, most mythologies have the sun god in a chariot, sort of, traveling from one end of the sky to the other. But Egyptian mythology has the sun god traveling in a boat going from the east to the west. And so that is that boat, right? And what happens is when it reaches west, it goes into the underground, right, carrying the souls of the people who have passed on. And that, again, all of this is very common across the board in multiple mythologies. So that is that boat that this king is seated on. And again, because he has all that knowledge, all that intellect, all that understanding, all the scientific understanding, he is obviously, like, he thinks, I'm smarter than the most of you. And of course that makes him a little conceited, right? And so we have him, inventive intellect in moral harmony, is successful in the pursuit of knowledge. Okay. So it's all about problem solving, navigating towards a goal, perception and insight during the explorations of the unknown, right? Attainment of the ideal in a balanced manner. Treasures come via intelligent means of bridging distances and making connections to the unknown. Science, communication. So we have ingenuity, invention, all of this in this card. Okay? Now we come back to this image from the Rider-Waite. Now, I have been studying the Rider-Waite or learning with the Rider-Waite for, I don't know, close to 20 years now. And I never really thought much about the boat. I was like, okay, here's a boat. He's rowing them from one end to the other. He's carrying the 6 swords with him, right? But now that boat connection makes a lot of sense. That is the boat with the sun and 6 of Swords, Tiferet of Tiferet, with the sun energy. And maybe these are the souls he's carrying, because we have all these swords. We have him moving on with mental baggage, and the image can be interpreted that very simply, yes. But here again, now with Mercury in Aquarius, we can see that here we have this clarity of thought, which is traversing over the emotions, right? And taking it to the other end, perhaps from east to west, right? Sitting there, once you reach there, you find clarity there, right? You're using your mind from in ways that are very, very holistic, very, very inventive, very, very uh, intellectually, from a different angle, that Aquarius can very well create that. And so, yeah, that's the boat reference with sun, with Ra, who's traveling across the river. But this is also, the sun is moving, so time is passing, and clarity is there. Hmm? Wow. So yeah, there you have. Now you have 6 of Swords, Mercury in Aquarius, talking about uh transitioning to a place where you can find clarity of thought. You can find that one adjusts and sort of compromises to the within that available harmonious thought process and still grows something. You find that you can bring various perspectives together to create insight and objectivity. You can create the energy of eternal truth within that space of reality. And here you find the sort of conceit, but also the understanding of being smart and intelligent and using that towards a higher ideal and to create success through some very ingenious and inventive methods, right? And navigate, really, right? Even here, he's navigating, isn't it? He has to navigate where he has to go. You navigate where you need to go, but you navigate using your wits and your knowledge. It's not just haphazardly. It's very scientific, folks. So yeah, science. Isn't that cool? Here we go. Now, the final decan of Aquarius is Moon in Aquarius, and it's linked with the Seven of Swords. So let's take a look what it's all about. Picatrix describes this decan as a beheaded man with an old woman in front of him. Right. Another description is a small-headed man, this one, dressed like a woman, and with him an old man. Okay. The big energy is ugliness, bad reputation, and scandal. Now, it's interesting here because it's connected with Moon in Aquarius, and Moon is always a very fluctuating energy, right? Moon is a very emotional energy, and within the realm of the very, free thinking, very intellectual Aquarius, this Moon is extremely uneasy and a little mm, out of place, perhaps, right? So again, we have seen that in all of these three decans, I believe there is this thing about the head not really being there. There's a beheaded man, there's a small-headed man, there's all of that, and it's got to do with Aquarian energy there. And yeah, the older man here, or the old woman here, could be reference to Saturn, the old man. Okay, just saying. Interesting. So we'll get into the telos imagery when we get there, but here we have that beheaded man with the old woman in front of him. So again, the lack of the head, it says your mind isn't up to the task. That's the whole vibe of it. So let's quickly look at the moon energy. Moon in astrology, moon represents your personality, your emotions, your satisfaction, motherhood, nurturing, your very feminine energies. It's your intuition, it's your inner calling, it's the emotional aspect of you, right? It can also talk about your insecurities and anxieties and inner fears. So, in the tarot, moon is connected with the high priestess. So again, all of the imagery we've already gone through it. High priestess is all about deep, silent contemplation, finding that balance. She is intuitive. She has access to knowledge, to secrets, right? She's pure and virginal in those ways. She's mysterious, and she gets it. She is kind of the initiation to the mysteries, to the understanding, to esoteric knowledge. And in the Kabbalah tree of life, she actually connects Keter, which is the highest sort of point, to Tiferet, right? Which is, Six of Swords, the Tiferet of Tiferet that we saw yesterday, that the Christ consciousness, if you will. So she's able to bridge that big of a space because she knows that knowledge is there, right? And she's able to connect that and conceal that and hold that within her, and she's beautifully powerful there, right? So that's the inner understanding she has. So when we have all of this energy of the high priestess, right? Now let's take a look at the card from the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, Uh, this card, this combination, this card calls it is titled Independence, right? Where Moon in this deck system is connected with security, and Aquarius is connected with principles and humanity. Even in the imagery here, we see, we have the British sort of sorry, the Stonehenge, this British temple Stonehenge here, yeah, and then we have the glyphs of Aquarius and the moon, right? So moon is the representation of your security, your inner sense of security, and Aquarius is about humanity. So then combined together, they require complete freedom of expression for their feelings. Now, remember, in Mercury, when there's Mercury in Aquarius, they required complete freedom of expression for their thoughts and ideas. Here, this is about their feelings, right? Because it's Moon. They need the freedom to come and go as they please, both physically and emotionally. And they can become very stubborn or perverse when others get a little too close and clingy. Okay. Moon in Aquarius people can switch their emotions, their friends, and their moods very quickly. They have plenty of friends. I think that's an Aquarius thing too, as well as a Moon thing, because Moon is also about connection. They can have a great deal of conversation. They like to have constant contact with others. They have lasting friendships. Oh yeah, this is fun one. The Moon and Aquarius combo is where friendships with women are given more importance than friendships with men. Yeah, right. This the bond is more mental than with the heart. Feelings and emotions tend to be rationalized because Aquarius will make them do that. They can be endless overthinkers and trapped in a mental whirlwind. Why? Because again, although moon, the keyword here is security, moon, the energy of the moon is always waxing and waning. So the feelings are always going through their cycles. And well, Aquarius is all about that. And thoughts endlessly going up and down. And oh, all right. So they need to let go of emotions and to allow feelings to express themselves without rationalizing. So these are group meetings for a humanitarian cause. These are original ideas brought to bear on a situation or a subject. This can also be an interest in astrology, right? Aquarians might have an interest in astrology by and large, I think, right? So this combination again, moon's waxing, waning, fluctuating emotions in the very rational but intellectually up and down energy of Aquarius is again desiring independence. And then when you combine it with the energy of the number 7, which is all about luck, which is about the limits of the material world and creating a bridge to the spiritual world. It's about exploring possibilities, perseverance, negotiation, big picture concerns, introspection, inner conflicts, secretive, and material attachments. Wide. So we have the Seven of Swords, Moon in Aquarius. And again, we'll follow the same format. We go from the Tarot de Marseille to the Thoughts to the Telos and then come to the Rider-Waite-Smith. Okay? So now what we see here in the Tarot de Marseille, we have the same, these 6 swords, but now we have the 7th one pushing through, just like how it was in the 5 with the 4 swords, right? What is happening though? The energy is different. We have the 6 had created a harmony. It had created a comfortable space, but harmoniously comfortable space. But the 7th wants to go break it. And so this single sword, it pierces right through it. And it is all about determined and focused energy that kind of sharply pushes through that comfort zone. It is doing what it takes to accomplish the goal. It's concentrated will. There's a no nonsense attitude with pure motivation. Okay, So it's about winning over an opponent where forces are roughly balanced. But what happens when we come to the imagery of the thought? The, the word here, the keyword here is futility. And we see a very interesting image. We see one big sword, which is kind of broken, I think. And then we have these other six swords coming at it, sort of hitting it and breaking it, maybe. And if you notice, each sword has a different sort of planetary glyph on it. Okay. So, what's going on? This large sword has the symbol of the sun, which is about clear organizing mind or intellect, right? But then we have these six swords that come at it. We have impairment and threats through illusion, which is coming from Neptune. Where's the glyph of Neptune? I believe that maybe this is Jupiter, this is Mars. It's hard to see, but one of them is Neptune anyhow. We have stubbornness of Saturn. Oh, maybe this is Neptune, maybe this is Saturn. And we have presumption of Jupiter. We have the destructive energy of Mars. We have the falseness of Venus. And the unscrupulousness of Mercury. Okay. All right. All of this is happening. There's a lot going on. So basically, if you will, the clear thought process represented by this sun sword is impaired by the sort of the shadow aspect energies of each of these planets. So Neptune is illusion, Saturn is stubborn, Jupiter is presumptuous, Mars is destructive, and Venus is, falseness, and Mercury is unscrupulousness. So it all comes in and creates that. So it breaks down the clarity, right? And this pale blue background represents superficiality. So now what we see is we have unexpected obstacles, we have self deception, we have murky business deals and shady practices, we have fraud, we have cheating, we have intrigues, we have dishonesty and cowardice and hypocrisy, inconsistency. Um, and essentially, it says don't underestimate others and don't be certain of victory, because you'll have something coming at you, from somewhere unexpectedly, which will defeat you, right? Which will create, so all of your efforts will be wasted. It's futile. Hmm? It's like the Borg. Resistance is futile. And so when we come to the telos tarot imagery, right, we see this Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. The number 7 is ruled by Venus. And then we have the moon energy here. And so this small-headed man is talking about needing to use your head to get out of trouble, but not really feeling up to the task or not making the appropriate effort. The old man is Saturn, and so this man dressed like a woman can also be the influence of Venus and Moon. Now this what the book says, and it's very interesting, that a cross-dressing man won't necessarily be useful in a fight. The old man may offer wisdom, but yet will one trust the other? So in the sky, we see this seven-pointed figure, which combines the emblems of the star, which is Aquarius, and the rose, which is Venus, and it contains the sliver of the moon, and it picks up 7 points along a ring of 56 holes, like the Aubrey holes at the monument of Stonehenge that mark out the lunar cycles for the changes of the moon that influence this decan. The 7 pointed stars are also known as fairy stars and associated with the notoriously tricky Fae, right? And the 5 pointed stars or pentagrams represent the four elements plus spirit. or the four directions plus above. The seven pointed stars, expand that to include the points below and within. So these are places normally hidden from view. And so that's what the seven pointed star is all about. So one should be very careful when dealing with these hidden realms because they are the in between places of the Fae who are known for tricking mortals. So it's futile, right? So this talks about unstable effort, right? Because again, how will this guy fight? Like he's all dressed up, right? It might impede his fighting, and then this old guy obviously is not going to fight, but his wisdom, whether he's going to listen to it, we don't know. There's fluctuating levels of energy. Again, moon, unreliability being outmatched by opposition, cleverness, cunning, intrigue, insincerity, deceit, right? You're going to use shrewdness and craftiness to win against overwhelming obstacles. Beware of trickery and ensnarement. Make sense? So now, when we look at this imagery from the Rider Waite, we see that. We see the trickery. We see him stealing those swords and running away. We see him, again, we have the uneven, three in one hand, two in one hand. He's holding his hands to hold this, the the sharp ends, actually. He's holding the swords in the wrong way. He's going to get hurt in this process. And he's making off with those swords, not all of them. He's still leaving two behind. He looks pretty pleased with himself. So we're looking at someone who is doing something underhanded, but not really using his head when he's at it, because he's going to either hurt himself. He has been smart enough to wait till everybody's out of the way, till he can steal from their tents. But he's again taking not everything. So it's all that moon energy, confusing, but also bringing that and the smartness and wits of Aquarius, but used in all the wrong ways and the wrong directions. So we get deception and self-deception. We get cheating, stealing, theft, addiction. We have a con man, a cheater, a politician. We have political maneuverings, manipulation, all of that. All of this energy, right? We have all that happening here in the Seven of Swords with Moon in Aquarius. Wild, huh? Here we go. All the cards together. We have Venus, Mercury, Moon. We have the Decans. We have Aquarius here. We have Venus in Aquarius. We have Mercury in Aquarius, and then we have Moon in Aquarius. Of course, the supporting cards are there. We have the Ace of Swords and the Page of Swords. The Ace being the root of the powers of air, which it has the power. This big Ace sword has the ability to cut through the bullshit, to get intellectual clarity, to create, to see the truth, the absolute truth, right? To have clear and logical thinking, sharp mind, the force of reason, right? And then the Page of Swords, perhaps the very youngest sword person, if you will, or the Princess of Swords, who is Earth of Air, is trying to sort of hesitantly use that power. They may have too many ideas, or they may have all kinds of ideas going all over the place. They might create conflicts. They might also have the strength in that naivete, if you will, to confront old patterns and look them in the eye. They can battle the illusions, and they really want clarity. They really want to kind of come to that point where they have that kind of clarity that comes with that air energy, right? And then we have the Knight of Swords, which supports the first two decans, which is your 5 and the 6 of swords. So we have them looking at the defeat and the science. We have them looking at the conflict of the 5 and the harmony of the 6. We have this Knight of Swords sort of rushing into the battle, perhaps looking to defeat or getting defeated. We have, we have these princes of air being very air of air, sort of riding there into that situation, looking at the whole logic of it and the scientific situations of it. They can, the Knight of Swords is very, very intellectually motivated. He is headstrong, he's smart, he's witty, he's very, very sharp. He may need conceptual clarity, but he's capable of figuring it out, right? And his mind is swift again, because we are looking at air of air. He can, he sometimes perhaps the horse might not match the speed of his thoughts, right? He is someone who is very smart and articulate and very, very intelligent and very sort of zealous. And then for the Seven of Swords, we have the King of Cups, right? Again, this guy, he's the king of water. He's also fire of water, which is again contradictory elements, if you will. And he's able to manage his emotions in a certain way. He's able to find that sort of control over his emotions and feelings and creativity and all of that. He's imaginative, and he is very graceful and sort of emotionally invested in all that he does. But this king can also be very much uh, an escapist. He can also create illusions and deceptions, so which kind of very much matches the vibe of the Seven of Swords, if you will. But that's where that king is. So we'll see this king again in the next two cards, the Eight and Nine of Cups, right? So these are your supporting court cards for this particular, these three decans. And when we put it together, we have this lovely mind map, which again you can download. I have the links in the description. So this is a good sort of a reference document that you can look at. Well, so that brings us to the end of this presentation, and also this. Wow, this is the Aquarius decans. So this was the 11th sign. The next one will be Pisces, which is the last of the zodiac. Wow, I can't believe I made it this far. Unbelievable. But yeah, I'm thankful and I'm grateful to all of you for your support and your good wishes, and I've kept going despite the world going crazy and my life going crazy and everything going crazy. And the only reason I've been strong enough to hang in there and keep doing this is because of you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, I will implore you, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, all of that, and download all the links and go read the blog, and make sure you kind of look at the journaling prompts and the study stuff and the links and everything. And it's been a joy making all of this, and believe me, I have some ideas. This Decan Walk might be over in the next one technically, but there's some insights that I have gained as a result of this. I'll be sharing with you after those videos as well. So hang around, this isn't over. Okay, so I will see you again in my next video. Until then, stay good, be good, and play with your cards. Bye now.